Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about this very sad thing that's happened to Rob Reiner and his wife, Michele, who, and anyway, if you don't know who Rob is, because he is a behind the scenes person, or he certainly has been in the last few years. He's a very famous director. He's very well known, just in Hollywood in general, and also for being just a generally nice guy, a liberal. He is a critic of Donald Trump, and we'll find out what Donald Trump had to say about it all. Just a total embarrassment to America, that man. And very sadly, over the weekend, I think it was Sunday evening, Rob and Michele were found murdered in their own house, likely by their own son. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But first of all, I'd just like to say, could you please like, subscribe? That's it, basically. And a big thank you to all of you who already have. Special thank you to my members and everyone who supports my channel in any way. So let's chat about this. So it's I actually had to stay off social media yesterday because of all the bad news that was coming out. Here we are coming up to Christmas. Again, it's so important to remember Christmas is not a happy time for everybody. You know, there'll be lots of people. Look at this family now, totally destroyed. There's Rob and Michele gone, and they've got other children, you know, adult children. You know, Christmas is not a respecter of, you know, tragedy. In fact, if anything, I think it feels like things are more heightened, aren't they, when they happen around the holiday season. And of course, we also had the Bondi Beach event, which I am going to talk about again in a separate video. Again, I just couldn't bring myself to talk about it yesterday, about either of it. There was this, it was bad news. I know social media is not exactly the place to go to for good news, is it? Sometimes I think no wonder all our children, all our young people have got mental health issues. And they've grown up with this social media. It's doom, gloom, you know, and we find out about things that, I mean, I think even before social media, we would have got to know about this. But just because this man is so well known over the world in his films, I loved When Harry Met Sally, I think is a prime example of probably a film that everybody has seen, or most, you know, an iconic film. He directed it. It was a brilliant film. It still is a brilliant film. But there's others, and we're going to look at others, but Stand By Me, you know, other films that maybe Spinal Tap, not so well known with everybody, but you know, and he did his bit of acting as well back in the day. You know, he's been around for a long time, and him and his wife, they're an enduring couple. And yeah, anyway, I just want to say, I'm so sorry to his family that this has happened to you, and I hope you're coping okay. And not only to his family, but any family, any of you that are going through problems coming up to Christmas, that I know that will feel even worse, because Christmas is approaching and you feel like everybody else is having a great time. They're probably not. I think the other thing about this tale, if you like, this case, there he is. This is his son, who is thought to have actually killed both his mum and dad. I think you can tell by his eyes he's got some issues. He has had a lot of issues with mental health, drug addiction. And the first thing I thought when I saw this was, it just shows you that it doesn't matter, literally mental health and addiction, etc. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how famous you are, how well known you are. mental health can claim anybody. Drug addiction can claim anybody from any walk of life. I remember a woman I knew years ago who had a son who was an addict saying to me that her son had associated with friends who were from a quite high up sort of, wealthy friends because he'd gone to private school. And she said it was worse because the drugs that he got involved with were more expensive drugs. They have more money. If they're from a family that's got money, they've got more access to more money. And they go with more sort of high-end drugs or more serious drugs. There's no barriers. There's no barriers to mental health issues or drug issues or drinking or any addiction. Something that intrigues me, because a psychologist told me years ago that everybody has this proclivity for bad mental health. And, she was a lady in her 60s. She was telling me that, she'd never had any mental health issues. But that doesn't mean to say that even tomorrow, she might have reached 63 years of age or however old she was, without mental health issues. But that didn't mean to say that just tomorrow, if she took a drug or, that it wouldn't open up these mental health issues that we've all got. That's what she said, a psychologist. And, it sort of raised this question in me. Do people already have mental health issues and that's why they turn to drugs or drink or whatever they turn to? Or is it the drugs or the drink or whatever that gives them the mental health issues? I think you can just tell by looking at this boy. He's got issues, but he put his issues to a positive thing along with his dad. They collaborated and another addict and, made a film, sort of a semi-autobiographical film about his experiences and the other addicts' experiences in rehab and the people that they'd met, etc. So it seemed at one point he was getting over his issues, but do you know that I think those issues never go away, no matter how old you get. They just don't get away, do they? And then it can take just one thing to bring it all back again. Anyway, let's just have a look at the news article about it so that I can explain to you what's happened. I just have to tell you, it's very sad. I mean, certain things, certain cases stir different emotions, don't they? And some we find more upsetting than others. I personally found this really, really upsetting, probably because I've got a son. And I just thought of, but the father and mother probably have done their best for their son all his life, but it wasn't enough. And there's obviously a lot of resentments there. The thing is, when your children grow up, they don't agree with everything you say. That's something you learn quite quickly, isn't it? You sort of almost expect your children to have the same views as you, but they don't. They are their own person. So arguments happen, don't they? Normally start round about in the teenage years, and if you're lucky, they eventually peter out. But if you're not lucky, like obviously this couple weren't, they don't, and they've culminated because by now, as you get older, like this guy, he's got older, but his son is in the prime of his life, really. So strength-wise, if they want to do damage, well, they can, can't they? So, and it just, not only for the guy, because obviously a lot of attention has been on Rob because he is the famous one, but his wife, Michele, I just thought of her mother knowing that, she was being attacked by her son, and the son was going to take her own life. And I just think, she would have just 100% more than worrying about herself. She would have been worrying about him. But anyway.
This is the house which belongs to Rob and Michele Reiner. You can see it's decorated in anticipation of Christmas, two Christmas wreaths on the gate, giant baubles in the tree. The only hint of the horror which unfolded inside here is the security guard now standing outside. There is also a small tribute in the corner there, a bunch of flowers and a candle. We're just getting the news that Rob and Michele Reiner's 32-year-old son, Nick, has been charged with their murder, and he has a history of mental health problems. People here in this suburb of Los Angeles, which is an enclave of multimillionaires, are horrified by what has happened in their usually very quiet, very safe community. They're also shocked at the reaction of the US President Donald Trump politicizing.
So now the thing is, yeah, they'll be thinking they're secure in their homes in these kind of places, don't they? So rich people tend to live in very secure homes, you know, because they're worried about being robbed, or they want their privacy because they're famous. But of course you cannot, you know, if the danger is there in the home with you, that can be even worse because you're so isolated as well. So the other thing that's happened concerning this case is this horrible, horrible man, Donald Trump. You know, just when you think this man can't do anything worse, he does something worse. He's an embarrassment to America. People even who voted for him, surely they must be thinking now, what the heck? It's like a collective madness. Are they waking up now and thinking, why did we vote for this man? Even the one thing that you thought he was going to be able to do, which was create some peace in Gaza and in Ukraine, he hasn't managed yet. He said he would do it within a couple of days. This man, Americans are paying apparently 13% more now for their electricity, etc., than they were before he came to power. Everything's, you know, he's sort of aligning himself with Russia. If anyone, he just feels like a threat to everyone, and even his own people. They're scared of him. They're too scared to speak out against him because he is literally crazy.
This tragedy. Rob Reiner was a vehement supporter of Democrat politicians and Democrat policies. He was also a very vocal critic of the president. But this is what Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social.
Yeah.
He said, "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michele, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michele rest in peace."
Can you believe that? Honestly. So, of course, all other sort of ex-presidents, politicians, film stars, other directors, all the tributes that have poured out for this man, you know, regardless of his politics. Yes, he wasn't you know, where it's in America now, it's almost a crime, isn't it, to be anti-Trump. God, they'll be rounding people up soon and taking them off to prison or whatever for speaking out against this man. You know, but everyone thought America was the place of free speech. And so the other thing we have to remember about Rob is when Charlie Kirk was shot, Rob appeared on the Piers Morgan show and was very condemning, or even though Charlie Kirk would be about as opposite to Rob Reiner in his politics as you could imagine. You couldn't imagine anything more opposite. But he went on and he said, this is not the answer. Violence is not the answer. Discourse is the answer. Donald Trump hasn't got an ounce of grace in his body. He had to politicize. This man has been killed, and his wife, brutally by their own son in their own home. So where is the place there for Donald Trump to turn it into some sort of political statement? It's disgusting. He is disgusting. And I'm sorry, I think that anyone who supports him is also disgusting. And that'll upset people, I know, because I know a lot of people support Trump. I have no idea why, but I'm sorry. If you can't see through this man now, I haven't got any... I'm speechless to think that anyone could support him. Apart from the whole Epstein thing as well. The guy is a paedophile. The guy is, he's a convicted sex offender. What more does he have to do before people wake up to see how revolting he is and how what he's doing to America? I mean, now in America, apparently they're going to say, you get your social media checked before you can get a visa to enter America. Well, who wants to go anyway? The thing is, now nobody wants to go there. Why would you want to go there? If you didn't get shot on the street or whatever, you've got to put up with a president like this. I don't want to put any money in Trump's pocket or in America's pocket. It gives you this bad impression of the country. Well, I won't get in. They'd take one look at my social media. So it's what happens to free speech again. So you can't go on social media and speak up against Trump. Not allowed an opinion anymore in America unless it's the opinion of Donald Trump or Elon Musk, because he's sort of running America as well, trying to run everywhere else at the same time. It's just turned into a joke country. It really has, and it's a shame, isn't it? It is a shame.
I think people have become used to the normal codes of conduct that you would expect from a president not applying anymore. But this Truth Social post, in many minds, plumbs new depths.
Thing is, people are normalising Trump is like the emperor with the new clothes. That people normalise his comments. He says things like calling that reporter old piggy, referring to, he says horrible things about women. He said so many things and done so many things. We've almost become desensitised to it. It's just like, oh, it's just Trump again. It's like people aren't taking him seriously. And he is serious, though. He does mean it. He does mean it. And like she says, he is plumbing new depths with this. This has, I'm sure, even his own supporters must think, come on.
Also been amplified by the White House's official X Twitter feed too. So real shock at what has happened here and real horror that it's being politicised in such a way.
Yeah,
this is the house which belongs
and when
to
he
Rob
was
and
questioned about it, instead of saying, no, I don't know, instead of saying sorry, he doubled down on it. Anyway, going back to the actual event itself. So Rob Reiner's son, who's been arrested on suspicion of murdering the filmmaker and his wife, was reportedly disruptive at a party hosted by comedian Conan O'Brien the night before the killings. Nick Reiner joined his father and mother, Michele Reiner, at the event on Saturday, and the couple were upset and embarrassed about his behaviour. They also expressed concerns about his health. I mean, they've probably been through hell with this boy. The outlet cited another source saying Nick's behaviour had made other guests uncomfortable. They said he interrupted a conversation that filmmaker Bill Hader was having with two guests. And when he was informed it was a private conversation, he stood still and stared before storming off. So This is Michelle and Rob, and then their 3 children. Romy in the middle there, apparently it was her who found the bodies, so that'd be so traumatic for her. This is Nick, the one who's assumed to have killed them. So 78 years old. 78 years old. Imagine getting to 78, doing all that in your life, and then your son murders you. And then poor Michelle, 68 years old. As I say, your thing is, you love your children, and I just cannot imagine how awful that must have been for them. So the case against Nick Reiner, 32, will be presented to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office for consideration on Tuesday, according to the city's police department. And Police Chief Jim McDonald said the Robbery and Homicide Division was handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case, he said, calling the deaths a very tragic incident. Now, the thing is, this boy, well, he's a man, but of course to them he was a boy. He's probably, he's killed the people that have had his back all that time. He won't, for whatever reason, for his addiction, for his mental health issues. He won't have believed that. He obviously resented them for whatever reason. And now they've gone, and they're the people that probably cared about him the most, maybe the only people that cared about him, because you don't know how his behavior might have, estranged other people from his. It's just so sad. So he's taken their lives. He probably regret it now. He's obviously in a fit of psychosis, I would imagine. But, or not, I don't know. Maybe he's a bad person. Maybe he was always a bad person. That's Harry. I mean, that film, that is a brilliant film. That's an iconic film, isn't it, of its time. There he is, Rob in the middle with Billy Crystal on the left and Meg Ryan, the stars of When Harry Met Sally. So you can imagine that Trump's statement hasn't gone down well. It's been all over social media, people condemning it, everybody condemning it. Whereas we had these lovely statements from Joe Biden, from Barack Obama, from the Clintons, from all kinds of actors, people who focused on his work. See, Trump cannot forgive people for not liking him. He couldn't just come out and say, what a terrible tragedy, which it is in a human level. He couldn't just come out and say that. He had to bring it back to him because Rob Reiner did not like him. So it's all about him all the time. And talk show host Whoopi Goldberg compared the president's comments to those that he made after the assassination of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk when Mr. Trump hit out at critics. I don't understand the man in the White House. He spoke at length about Charlie Kirk and about caring. He criticised people that spoke out against Charlie Kirk. And, I don't agree with that either, Charlie Kirk is about as far from my political leanings as you could be, but it's still terrible what happened to him. Politics should be a battle of ideas, not a real battle with violence. And she says, have you no shame? No shame at all. Can you get any lower? I don't think so. Everybody's describing as a sick man. She said on air, he's not my president. He was a confirmed Democrat, but it's like, anyway, so Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene referred to Nick Reiner's drug addiction and other issues in a statement on X. This is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies. Many families deal with a family member with drug addiction and mental health issues. It's incredibly difficult and should be met with empathy, especially when it ends in murder. They think, you know what, the only positive thing that might come out, this is going to hopefully start a debate, because I feel like it seems increasingly lately you're reading about people, parents, you know, murdered by their children because of drug-related issues, or quite often, you know, that's what prompts people to go out and kill other people. They either kill their family, don't they, or they kill other people, or quite often they do both. Will it create, I hope when it's a high profile person that's been affected like this, hopefully it leads to a debate. Because apparently Nick Reiner himself has spoken publicly of his struggles with addiction. He cycled in and out of treatment facilities, even by the age of 18, and he had periods of homelessness and relapses in between. He and his father explored their difficult relationship and his struggles with heroin addiction and homelessness in a 2016 film called Being Charlie, which they co-wrote. So that seems so very sad now that they actually managed to put that film together and it looked like things were getting better. But they weren't. So Rob Reiner was a celebrated director whose work included some of the most memorable movies of the 80s and 90s. Classics such as This Is Spinal Tap, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men, which had that sort of odd combination of Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. And I love Jack Nicholson, and I've grudgingly come to like Tom Cruise better, you know, as actors. And Stand By Me, of course, which was Stephen King. Also, he directed, they haven't mentioned, they directed Misery, which was another Stephen King novel, and Stephen King has, you know, led with tributes. Stand By Me and Misery were two films adapted from Stephen King books. He also acted, starring in Sleepless in Seattle, The Wolf of Wall Street, amongst others. And his most recent high-profile work was a recurring guest role in the hit show The Bear. So he met Michelle Singer in 1989 when he was directing When Harry Met Sally, and they have 3 children together. And an interesting sort of just bit of information is, if you've seen When Harry Met Sally, you know, it has a happy ending, let's say, and it wasn't intended necessarily to have a happy ending. He changed it because he met Michelle and he fell in love while he was making or directing When Harry Met Sally. So he made the ending a happy ending because he was in love. So that's quite sweet, isn't it? So he used to work as a photographer. He took the photo of Donald Trump that appears on his cover of the book Trump, The Art of the Deal. Former US President Barack Obama's led tributes as well. Harry Shearer, Christopher Guest, Jamie Lee Curtis. So, yeah, he was a champion of liberal causes, a political activist, and that's why Donald Trump doesn't like him. So he has always backed Democrats. Always. So he's a confirmed Democrat, that's for sure. And that is the problem as far as Trump's concerned, isn't it? You're not allowed to be a Democrat. You've got to be a Trumpy. You've got to be a Trumper. You know, you don't have a choice. It's not free speech in America unless it's to say good things about Trumpy, is it? So I'd just like to say rest in peace to both these people. That is, I expect they've suffered for years with this boy. They've probably known what to do with him. As I say, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, how many psychologists you can afford, or, you know, it just doesn't matter when it comes to mental illness, drug addiction. You just think, what is the answer? Let's just watch this one more time. What is
the house which belongs to Rob and Michele Reiner. You can see it's decorated in anticipation of Christmas, 2 Christmas wreaths on the gate, giant baubles in the tree. The only hint of the horror which unfolded inside here is the security guard now standing outside. There is also a small tribute in the corner there, a bunch of flowers and a candle. We're just getting the news that Rob and Michele Reiner's 32-year-old son, Nick, has been charged with their murder, and he has a history of mental health problems. People here in this suburb of Los Angeles, which is an enclave of multimillionaires, are horrified by what has happened in their usually very quiet, very safe community. They're also shocked at the reaction of the US President Donald Trump politicizing this tragedy. Rob Reiner was a vehement supporter of Democrat politicians and Democrat policies. He was also a very vocal critic of the president. But this is what Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social. He said, "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michele, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michele rest in peace." I think people have become used to the normal codes of conduct that you would expect from a president not applying anymore. But this Truth Social post, in many minds, plumbs new depths. And it's also been amplified by the White House's official X Twitter feed too. So real shock at what has happened here and real horror that it's being politicized.
Yeah. And as I say, when he was asked about it, he doubled down on it. Like, I'm just trying to look for the clip. Unbelievable. But he gets away with it because people are ignoring him. They're ignoring him. They're not. Yeah, here we go. Let's have a look. People aren't holding him to account. So he feels like he can say whatever he wants. He's a dangerous man. This man is dangerous.
A deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. So he became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
Yeah. A number of Republicans have denounced your
statement
on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said,
yeah, all that matters to him is as far as Trump is concerned. So none of the fantastic things he did over his life, and more than this man is, what's this man done in his life? Abused little girls, you know, used his power, created division and hate. Oh, he's now suing the BBC as well. He's put in a file about that soon. You know, what has he done positive? You know, Rob Reiner, just because he had opposite political views to him, it's all about him. But he's left a legacy of pleasure that he's given people with his films, etc.
He knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think
Well,
he
you
hurt
are,
himself
really.
in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
A number of Republicans have been.
Well, we know who's actually bad for your country. Donald. Dozy Donald. He's the one who's bad. Yeah. Honest, my heart was so heavy yesterday with everything. You know, when you've got a leader like that in such a powerful position, what hope is there? You know, breeding hate and, you know, I haven't even got the grace when someone's been murdered to, you know, at least not say anything bad. He doesn't have to say anything good. He didn't have to say anything, did he? You know, just don't say anything if you can't say anything good. But anyway. Okay, so thank you for watching. I just want to say a prayer for Rob and his wife Michele, and even his son. I don't know what happened there. It's likely to be some sort of psychosis, but also for the rest of the family who now they're coming up to Christmas. You could see all those Christmas preparations had started, and you know, they're going to have this horrible sort of, they've got a lot to get through. So thank you for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Take care of yourself. And until I see you again, may your God go with you. I'm going to just put a little candle up. Yeah.